5, 4, 3, 2. Why do you always do that?
Kids, it's a countdown.
You count down to what? I feel like people's like are, a countdown to what?
The countdown to the show.
Oh, to the show.
It's also to prepare you, get your mind into the game.
It takes a lot longer than 5 seconds for my mind to get into the game.
Well,
Usually, my mind's in the game with 5 minutes left of the show.
I am aware of that.
Listen, people, I just got yelled at by Squib here
He did not.
for being all over the place last week and not coming back to the original idea. It's very important to him, and I appreciate that because if it was up to me, we'd be all over the place.
I'm a conceptual artist.
I like that title. I don't know why. Yeah. It sounds perverted.
I wasn't going there with it, but
drop your pants. I'm a conceptual artist.
That's horrible. Well, there are people that just do like in the art world. There are people that they can't come up with a full concept. They only do the certain parts of the job that they can do.
How many incomplete paintings do they have?
I don't know. I mean, most of
that
them
sounds like a boring type of painter.
Well, I would think that most of them are like set designers. They do like shit. They do like shit like that. Like,
so they'll have a specialty?
Yeah, I would think so.
Do they get paid well?
I don't know. I'm hypothetically acting like I know what I'm talking about.
You're doing a good job.
I don't totally know, but I'm
just
guessing.
Like you hypothetically make believe that you weren't yelling at me about going off subject.
I was not yelling. I was just saying that it's more interesting when we stick to one
he
subject
gets so
rather than 30.
Listen, people, he gets so aggravated with me. I can see it in his eyes, but the dude loves me so much like a brother. He doesn't have the heart to tell me, would you stop fucking jumping around everywhere and stick to one thing? I can see it in his eyes sometimes.
Nah, I'm just laughing at this one. There is a lot of truth to that.
But the other part of it is...
He just called me out.
I won't give a shit.
And it was spot on.
I won't give a shit what you say anyways. I'm still going to do what I want.
That's true, too. And I do know that. Which I'm totally cool and clear with. Because I do the same shit. We are two peas in a pod.
Yeah, but you do it in a lot more incognito way. You have a way of getting people caught up in it with you, where I'm so like out of left field that people get lost sometimes, I think, with what I'm saying.
Well, I also sell. I sell for a living.
Yeah, you sell a lot of coke, that's for sure.
Those are my old days. And you didn't have to be a good salesman for that. It sold itself.
As long as
that's why I always get a kick out of somebody who sells drugs. They think they're actually good at sales. You didn't do anything. You just had a product that everybody wants. It's not like you actually developed the fucking marketing plan. You didn't actually distribute. Well, you did some distribution, but
it's not like you had billboards up.
Yeah, you have a product that people want, which it's a lot harder to sell something that somebody doesn't really need. That you have to make them. Well, you don't really make them think that they need it or that they have to have it. It's just that. I mean, I just try to do the best job I can, so then the person themselves, they like what they got.
And that's what made you such a good cocaine dealer.
No, that was a whole other.
I thought that's what you were talking about.
That was a whole other walk.
Oh.
Well, that was a whole other walk.
You want to hear something interesting about drug dealers?
Okay.
I'm serious. To talk about sales and stuff. Without naming names, I'm actually kind of friendly with an ex-drug dealer who was pretty big at one point. And he cleaned his act up. He's actually a very good person now. Tough childhood, and I don't know. Kids make stupid decisions, but then he became like an adult and kept doing it and then got caught up. But anyways, he told me that being a good drug dealer is actually a lot harder than you think. That it's hard to make money. So, what do you mean? I said, what do you mean? He goes, listen, when you make the real money, you're pushing weight. Not everyone has $30,000 to give you for a kilo. So a lot of times you're fronting product and you're taking a coin flip out if you were going to get the money back. Now, he goes, that's where it separates the boys from the men. I said, what do you mean? He goes, because if you're a good drug dealer, you'll use violence to get your money. And that's where a lot of people fall short. And that's why a lot of drug dealers go broke or whatever, because they're not really drug dealers. They don't have it in them. He says, it takes a special type of person. It's like, so you have to be willing to commit violence. He said, absolutely. Especially when, I'm not saying he wasn't talking about the small time. He was talking about when you start getting mid-level,
Oh yeah.
start moving some weight. You're not always going to run into someone. That's why the guys who you run into who do pay you for the upfront, you want to keep them around because they're good on their word.
Yeah.
But he was like, a lot of dealers fail when the time comes when you have to do work to get your money. You know,
Yeah, I
and
can
think
see
about
that.
that.
Yeah.
You may have sold 3 kilos in the past year, but if someone screws you for 2 kilos, you've already lost $50,000 profit. If you're not willing to go get your money,
Yeah.
let's put in a polite way.
And you really haven't sold 3. You really only sold 1.
Exactly. So I actually never thought of it like that. It's like he was like I'm not being funny. It's like not easy work. Like you want to keep track, and he goes, good drug dealers have keep books like a bookkeeper on it.
Oh yeah, totally.
Crazy, man.
So you want to know what's funny about that? And I'll just tell a quick story. So I was going to see Fish. I think it was either this past New Year's run or last year's New Year's run, and there were these young kids that were in the car, a couple seats up from me. And so I'm listening to their conversation, and they're talking about what they're going to do with their lives, and they're all kind of young. And so one of the kids goes, "Well, we could make a lot of money. We could just become drug dealers." And I literally was sitting there, and I'm listening to him. I go, "Yeah, you guys wait until 2 a.m. when somebody's knocking on your window because they need their fix." I go, "I don't think anyone," and these kids were like from Greenwich or Darien. They were like very, very well off. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, I don't think these guys know exactly what they're talking about at this present moment.
Let me ask you your opinion on this. What do you think is, because I think we all had an obsession with that image. What's the obsession with the drug dealer image with young men? I remember having it in high school. I admit it.
Yeah.
Like my freshman, sophomore year, I totally was like, want to be like an OG drug dealer, gangbanger. Like, what is that? Like, what is that about? I mean, there's got to be psychology behind it.
Probably power.
Yes.
If I had to guess.
That's a good point.
When you're young, you're impressionable. You're also like insecure with yourself. And then when you have money, you have power.
Also, the girls like the bad boys at that age.
And
at every age.
And all the girls that, all the party people, they love the drug dealer. I mean, or they love the guy who parties like an animal, which I had the best of both worlds.
Let me ask you something. Do you consider drug dealers murderers?
Nowadays, yes. When we were growing up, not so much. It's changed. Fentanyl's changed the game on that.
Yeah.
I just saw a video. Yeah, we weren't going to really talk about this subject, but I guess we might as well because this is a good one.
So okay, wait. Here we go, people. See what I'm saying? He's pissed at me in a way.
No,
See,
not at
because
all. I actually am fascinated with this.
Oh wait. So he just gave me
going.
the okay, the green light on this one. I'll be yelled at some point after this podcast, people. And one of these days, I'm actually going to record without him knowing it, and then end it to the end of the podcast, so you understand what I'm going through. And then I'll post a picture of both of us, and then you're going to laugh even harder when you realize physically I shouldn't be scared of him, but I fear his tongue, his split tongue. Like 1 minute he's nice, and the next one he looks at you with his. I guess because I take your opinion seriously. Go ahead.
You could crush me.
Yes, I could.
Okay, so hold on.
I could crush most people.
Where were we in that?
You were talking about. I asked you
for killing.
Well, if you believe drug dealers are murderers.
So I think nowadays, yes. Oh, okay. So yeah, I was watching this video. What was it? I think it might have even been this morning or yesterday. And so it said it had either a cop or police detective. I don't know who it was, but he had like a baggie, and his baggie was like, I don't know, it was probably like maybe 2 inches by 3 inches, and it had I'm gonna say probably maybe about an 8-ball of cocaine in it. So he goes, "This is how much cocaine it takes for you to OD." He had I don't know, I think it was a bottle of booze or 2 bottles of booze. He goes, "This is how much it would take if you drank yourself to death." And then he literally had one little vial that had one mini fragment in it. And he said, this is enough to kill you and I right now. And it was fentanyl. Yep. And it was one little granular of fentanyl. And so it was a very eye opening video. Let's put it that way.
Well, I have friends who are in narcotics enforcement, and they told me that heroin is not even a thing anymore. Like, you can't find heroin. Everything is fentanyl. In fact, they told me that in the past couple years, you can't even find pure cocaine anymore. Everything has fentanyl in it.
I would agree with that. I probably
There's nothing to disagree with. That's what
Yeah.
I'm telling you.
Yeah.
I mean, this is scary stuff.
and I mean that's
Like, this is a national security issue.
that's one of the problems with what's going on with our border. That is, it's making its waves, but nobody really wants to listen to what's going on.
Well, I told you. Why don't you tell them what I told you? What I think the cure is.
Oh, well, I actually I will not totally disagree with that, because that will definitely, first of all, it'll scare the hell out of the people who are running this thing. But at the same time, I don't know, because I think some of the people that are on our side are the same ones that are working with the people on that side to keep things rolling in a certain way, which I don't like to actually accuse anyone of, because that's not fair of me.
I
but-
get what you're saying, like the crack aspect, but I don't think if that is going on, I don't think they ever meant it to get out of control like it has. It is out of control.
Yeah, but I also think they're facilitating it. They just don't want it to be in control, which I don't
That's
know
like
if
treason. Then you're killing your own people.
which I don't know if there's money involved.
Of
if
course
it's-
there is.
If it's ethics,
No, it's
because
money.
they don't care. But I would agree with you on that one. I think the greed is just taking over what's right and what's wrong.
Okay, I think greed is the first step, but I think the ultimate is power and control.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. Absolutely. And they don't care if they have to strike a deal with the devil to get more power.
Well, they've already struck a deal with the devil. I mean, just go look up,
Yeah, that's true.
all these different groups and stuff. Listen, to stay on the drug thing, fentanyl, in my eyes, is a national security problem, and no president has yet mentioned the fix. And I'm going to tell you people what it is.
So
If you list the cartels as terrorists on a terrorist list, because of the wonderful Patriot Act, guess what? Guess who we can send in to get them? Drones, SEAL Team 6, Delta Force, they're done. The cartels will be done.
actually, I did, believe it or not, and this is, whether you like them or whether you hate them. I did just hear that Trump in one of his rallies said that that's actually not off the table.
But here's the thing, and I'm saying this, and I mean it. Why is he even saying it's not off the table? How about it's on the fucking table, and the ink is ready for me to sign it in the minute I get into office?
If I had a guess, and this is just, I think he has a lot of ideas that some of us agree with, some of us don't agree with. But I don't think he wants to tell us everything that he's going to do, because I think a lot of what's going on now is going to be reversed.
I saw an interesting interview with a judge who's friends with him, and it was just a snippet, and I found this absolutely fascinating. And I think all of this, what we're talking about right now, the drugs, the assassinations, it all comes from the same place. Well, let's say, with the same intention, just taking a different angle. It's about control and power.
Yep,
Okay?
I would agree.
I thought this was really interesting. So the judge asked Trump, you said that when you got in the first time, you would be open about everything, including the JFK papers. You know what he said to his friend?
What?
He said, I was. He goes, but if you saw and read what they showed me, you would change your mind and not release it either. Which I was like, wow. And he said to him at the end of the conversation, he raised his voice. And when there's a day when I'll have 19 people listening in, and maybe I'll tell you what they said.
Well, that's right.
Well, I can tell you right now, he was threatened to keep his mouth shut as the president. I'm telling you.
Oh, definitely.
And number two, it's obvious. I mean, I've said this for ages. JFK said he was going to blow the CIA apart. Well, guess what? You're stupid. Like, you're not stupid, but you just threatened who runs the world. They got rid of him. They got rid of his brother. It's the same thing with God rest his soul, Martin Luther King, even Malcolm X. You know,
Oh yeah, they do it for anybody who gets any type of movement behind them. I think that.
so you want me to? So since you love when I loop things back to the original subject, how do you think a lot of that's funded? How do you think the Bay of Pigs was funded?
Oh.
How do you think these black ops missions are funded? How? It's not going through fucking Congress.
No, usually it's through.
It's not going through a committee. No, it's through the sale of illicit drugs.
illicit activities
Yes, because you can't trace drug money.
or human trafficking money, which
Well,
I think.
don't even get me started on that.
Which I do think that's what we're
That
involved
stuff
in.
makes me want to cry.
I think we're involved in that too now. Which
No,
I-
please, God, don't
I-
say that.
Which I hate to say. It's just there's a reason why things are not changing, and I don't want to know how diabolical it is. I don't want to know how evil it is, but it's very evil and very diabolical.
Do you believe the devil's behind it?
Oh, the people who've sold their soul to the devil, if not him directly. Yeah, absolutely.
Good, 'cause so do I.
Yeah.
I never thought to be a dad I'd say something like that because I might have said that like 5-10 years ago, but I was just joking. Like, that's crazy. But I'm actually dead serious.
Oh no, I agree.
There's an absolute evil entity behind it, and it's the devil.
Yeah, yeah. When
And
you're-
any of you who are gawking at that or laughing, say you really need to look in the mirror because you've either lived in a really protected, shelled life in the suburbs, you know, with your white picket fence, or you are purposely not looking at what's going on because the fact that an evil entity such as the devil could be behind it all is so terrifying to you, rather make believe it's not going on.
well, you don't value what a soul is then.
You don't know what a fucking soul is then.
Well, that too. I mean,
These people who support it, this is what it is. Instead of calling it pedophilia, they want to call it pedo love. Is it pedo love?
oh, I don't know. I sent you that. I forgot.
That's a real thing.
Yeah, no, I knew it was a real thing.
So these are liberals. These are super liberals.
Oh yeah, no, that's where it's moving.
So
towards.
you're making fun of me because I'm saying the devil's behind a lot of evil stuff, but you're okay with adults having sex with kids.
Well, they're also marching and protesting about situations they don't even know.
Yeah, well, fuck you.
There's a lot of confusion. There's a lot of confusion.
And you know what?
going on
Twitter will
right
put
now.
me up. I don't fucking care about YouTube.
Well, we'll get to that point when we get to that point. But
Yeah,
still,
when are you going to do work on that? You're always busting my balls about
I
everything.
actually do have to do some work on that.
I'm only joking.
You are right about
You have
that.
your dad's stuff. I love you, man. I'm just busting your balls.
But regardless, I do think that there is some shady, evil shit going on right now. That's how can I say? It's pretty dark. I mean, I'm gonna say it's. I don't know if it's the darkest that the world's been in, but we're not in a real shining good place right now, is what I would say.
I think it's the darkest the world's ever been spiritually.
I don't know. I think before.
I mean,
I think when the flood happened, right before the flood happened.
well, also, you know what?
it couldn't have been
When
too
they
good
also,
of a place.
yeah, I think with Sodom and Gomorrah, it wasn't too good of a place, and I also think when they crucified Christ, it wasn't such a good place.
No, nor was
The
nor
Crusades.
well the
you know.
Crusades, the bomb. I mean, I also think that World War II bombing the Hiroshima and Nagasaki. That was
World War One was much worse than that.
those were pretty.
Actually, you know what was worse than all of that? The Civil War,
Oh yeah,
the American Civil War.
I mean, war's hell on earth.
It is, and you know what? Not enough people understand it. They think it's the answer to everything, and it's not.
Those are mostly privileged people who don't have to fight it. That just
Yeah, but that's the problem. They're the one.
look at us as expendable pieces of furniture or items of clothing or something else that
We are
they
ex-
could just send us into.
I'm an expendable asset. I know that. I'm not stupid.
You're right. Yeah, you're right. I mean,
Yeah.
we all are to a certain degree, but yep. I mean, you're definitely right. I don't know. That's a hard
So,
pill to swallow.
with the drugs, to me, it's they're socially different today than when we were growing up. And I think when we were growing up, they were socially different than when our parents were growing up because they're the fuckers who started it.
Well, our parents, it was more innuendo. There weren't
Explain.
as many drugs. There weren't as many.
Oh,
drugs.
yes, there were. There were plenty of drugs. The potency. I think that's what you mean.
Yeah, and it wasn't. the people who did them, it was in like back rooms, and it was like the bad boys or like
It's just simple. It was the same thing when we were in high school. Because I remember, listen, weed was openly talked about, and honestly, people, it was probably 20% of the strength it is today. Okay, so I get it. And I knew a couple of people who did cocaine in high school, but that was like a big, like, that was still taboo.
Oh, that was real tough.
It's not anymore, dude.
Actually, acid was probably the most untaboo, but was taboo when we were growing up.
And shrooms,
Because
too.
we grew up in the
Ecstasy was big, too.
Well,
when we got senior year.
yeah, because we grew up right in the resurgence. That was the resurgence of like the psychedelics.
Yeah.
Because those
They're
were,
making a comeback now.
and those weren't popular. Like I'm going to say probably 5 years before we graduated. It was all cocaine, and nobody was really doing psychedelics. I would probably say like the generation before us, it was cocaine, more cocaine than anything, because the 80s was all cocaine.
Well, you know that weed today is a completely different drug than the weed we had growing up.
Oh yeah. I mean, I've
Blast you. I mean,
I've partaken for quite a while with some of it, but yes.
I mean, so I think, I think one of the things we have to look at as Americans is that whether we like to admit it or not, drugs are part of our culture.
Yeah,
absolutely. The problem is we don't treat it like alcohol. We have a terrible appetite for the hardcore drugs. And hardcore drugs, they're death sentences. It's like weed is a drug to me, okay?
Yeah,
it's like alcohol is. But these other ones like cocaine and the fentanyl, the heroin, the prescription opiates when they're on the streets, those are death sentences. Those aren't drugs. Those aren't recreational. No, those are death sentences.
Yeah.
I just see it differently than when I look at weed and alcohol. Although alcohol, sometimes I think that's the liquid benzo, that's the liquid Xanax for a lot of people,
Yeah. I mean, all drugs are bad. Let's just put it that way, no matter what. You can overabuse caffeine, you can overabuse nicotine, you can overabuse cocaine. I mean, obviously you could OD with certain drugs after you overstep your bounds with them. But the problem is that I think, especially for our generation, we were taught dare. We were taught not to do drugs instead of teaching responsibility, and being a responsible person.
I disagree with that. You know why? I don't think we should be telling our kids to do drugs.
Oh, no,
This is where Dare missed out. They didn't tell you why people do drugs. Only because they're down on their luck. No, people do drugs because they are fun.
Well, they are.
They should they're fun at first. Don't bullshit me. They're fun, and you damn well know it, and I know it. The problem is they turn on you very quickly. This is not talked about with kids. You can't lie to kids.
No,
Getting drunk is fun. The problem is it creeps up on you. And before you know it, you're swimming in alcohol 3 years later after your first drink, especially if you have the genetic makeup. This is not taught to the kids. You're not going to sit there and say, drugs are bad, alcohol is bad for you. Well, then also at 21, alcohol and weed are not bad for you? Don't bullshit me. Like, they are fun, okay? But this is why we don't want you doing it before 21. Explain the science behind the brain and all that. And also explain to them that addiction is a horrible disease that creeps up on you. That it might have been fun at first, but it turns into a nightmare. You have to pay the piper. That wasn't explained to us. I'm sorry, dude. That was not explained to us when we were growing up.
No, but one of the biggest things too that I think with that, piggybacking off of that, is the reason why you usually fall into addiction or fall into like a rut like that is a lot of it has to do with the fact that you're not secure with yourself. And you're filling a void that you're trying to either run from yourself.
Okay, fine. Why aren't they straightforward? Because they're not straightforward with these students, even in high school, about that. You're exactly right. That's a very big reason. It's never talked about. It's you don't have to fit in. Don't give in to peer pressure. No. Peer pressure is a secondary symptom. Let's talk about the person that they're putting the peer pressure on, why they would give in. It's not because of the peer pressure. The peer pressure is this match that was thrown on the gas that's already in them, ready to blow up. It's because of self-worth. They don't talk to kids about it. They don't make that connection.
Yeah.
Kids are not stupid. We have a tendency to think our children are stupid. They are not.
Absolutely not.
They are not. If you actually take the fucking time and act like you care, you can make these connections.
Well, I think kids are smarter than they're smarter nowadays than when we grew up, because they keep evolving. Yeah,
Well, I mean, not street smarts though.
no, well, I didn't go that far.
Yo, Generation X is the shit.
I will say we were very
I
blessed.
can guarantee you the greatest Navy SEALs and Delta Force operators who ever came out of our military were Generation X.
Yeah, we are lucky. We did grow up in the best of both worlds. But
with that said, do you get what I'm saying? Like you have, and I'm not saying, well, you have to get to their level and be friends. No, you don't have to be friends with a child. What you need to do is be educated enough to speak with authority, but be able to communicate with them in a way that they understand and they can follow the steps that make sense to them. And you'll see it when it makes sense to them. The light bulb goes off. You can literally see it.
well,
That's what I did with my children. I said, look, I can't stop you from doing drugs. Do I demand that you don't? Yes, because I love you and that's my job. But here is why. This is what happens. And I explain to them. I don't hide anything from them.
So that's funny you say that, because there was I was in a meditation group a while back.
Were you guys naked?
No.
Okay. Sorry.
Stop. And so I'm like, there was a young girl.
Wait,
in
did you have
there.
one of those orange robes on? Like the boots?
No,
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
It was that type of meditation, but that's
Did they
regardless.
turn the heat up in the
Stop
room or
it.
no? Okay, I'm sorry.
Let's move on.
Oh,
So-
see, I'm getting off subject again. He's getting angry.
No,
the
my-
Nazis coming out of his eyes.
my ADHD is gonna.
Okay, I'm
move
sorry.
me
I'm
around.
sorry. I'm sorry. I'm a little hyper right now.
I could tell. So the girl is, God, she had to be 18, 19 years old. She was young.
Was she hot?
Regardless, she was attractive.
Means she was very good looking, people. He just doesn't want to sound like a pervert because she was only 18 or 19 years old.
She was good.
So we're not talking about a 12-year-old. We're talking about 18, 19-year-old.
But regardless, she was an intravenous drug user by like 16, she said.
That's horrible.
So I'm talking with her, and I literally said, I go, you know what? I don't really understand your generation. And she goes, well, what's that? I go, when did your generation not get the memo that intravenous drugs are the end of the road?
Yeah, it is.
I go, you guys never learned. I go, look, we partied. We did a lot of drugs. Cocaine, you might have sniffed heroin. You might have sniffed cocaine.
But that needle
You
always...
never
Yep.
intravenously shot anything into your arms.
Unless you were looking to die.
Because you
You knew.
knew that was the end of the road. And somebody forgot to tell the youth that,
There's no coming back from that. I think it's, 93% people relapse off that.
well, I'll be honest, there's one of two paths after you do that. You're either going to die, which is that's probably the easiest way out.
Or be on methadone
And
for the rest of your life. Or
meth-
Suboxone.
There's probably three. Methadone's the second. Or the third, you're going to be in recovery, and you're going to be in recovery you will be working at your recovery for the rest of your
Every
life.
single breath you take for the rest of your life.
You have to.
Because that's how strong that...
Alcohol, all drugs are like that.
And what was her answer?
She didn't really have an answer.
How scary is that, though?
But she did agree with that.
Okay.
She did not disagree.
This is my point.
She did say, you do have a very valid point with what you're saying.
Okay. This is my point.
So,
That should have been discussed with her, like you said,
oh yeah.
when she was fucking 12.
But they don't. So this was another thing that I always.
But they're
found.
more worried about hanging a rainbow flag and accepting less than 1% of the population being trans. Yo, we have a drug problem with our youth and our adults. Forget all that other stuff. Let's talk about this.
Yeah, but all that other stuff you got to understand. There's a lot of money in the programs, and there's a lot of other stuff going on behind the scenes that we don't. That isn't included with that. That's why it's
Okay, so maybe it's time we start calling that out too.
But I will say, I do agree cold-heartedly that I thought, personally, as somebody who went through the 12 steps, that I thought that teaching the 12 steps and what I learned in recovery should have been taught in health classes.
I've never actually. That's a really good point. Even if you didn't have a problem, I think it's good for anyone to use, even if you don't have an addiction problem. It's actually a decent way to live life.
It's actually quite a fantastic way to live life. It's actually, until I actually started doing it, I never really knew what I was missing, because I didn't really have that type of. I mean, I grew up in a household that never really. It was kind of like your household. We didn't like sit down for family dinner and have kumbaya session.
Oh, that would have been
For
weird.
the most part, it was.
We loved each other, but there was none of that.
Yeah, everybody loved each other, but I mean, it was every person for themselves.
Yeah.
I mean, I hate to say it like that, but it was kind of like that. I mean, it's a lot different nowadays, but still, it's. I think the youth nowadays live very much in that same mental state because most of those mothers and fathers are working tons. They're not there as much as they should be.
Well, the fact that the mother has to leave the house now just because of financial reasons, that's a terrible thing to do to a family.
Yeah, I mean,
You know?
you probably have, and unfortunately, most people have to because they.
That's what I'm saying. And dude, motherhood, there is no more honorable, bigger job in the world than carrying a life and being a mother. And I don't give a damn what the feminists say about, oh, you need to get a patriarch and be equal. No, there's not a man on earth, no matter how much success he's had, who has a more honorable and more important job than the poor woman who has no money, who has a child, than that woman's job. And it's a shame we live in a society who doesn't fucking see that.
And I'm gonna say flat out, that
Our mothers, without
guy
our
will-
mothers, we don't exist.
and a guy will never be a girl.
No, and a
Never.
girl will never be a guy.
I mean,
So get over it.
I'm sorry. It's just that's my view on it. You guys can have your own view. I respect your view, but your
I don't
view-
respect it.
Your review is definitely
It's
different. from my
delusional.
view.
I don't. That's you, but I don't respect it because the view is delusional. It's absolutely delusional.
Well,
They want affirmative care, but they need to chop their penis off to affirm. I'm like, what? None of it makes sense.
hey, there's
It's
always
an attack. Let me tell you something. This whole trans thing, and I'm even watching the whole LBGQT plus. It's an attack on women, and don't think it's not.
I actually do agree.
They've
with that.
actually convinced women that abortion's empowerment. What are you talking about? Abortion should be the most embarrassing moment of your life. But they're teaching you it's a power that you have a right to have. What are you talking about? No one should be looking at it like that.
You should be trying not to have one, but
Thank you very much.
I will say that it will.
I don't agree with it, so don't even ask.
I
me.
know you don't, but
And I don't think, no offense to you, but I don't think anyone who's had a child, who hasn't had a child, either male or female, should have any opinion on it. Because I'm going to tell you why.
Yep.
Just listen, hear me out.
I agree.
Your view changes once you have a child. It
my,
changes.
My view is only the view of that it's up to the woman that has the child. So that's
Okay,
That's
that's fine. Then it's up to the man whether he pays child support or not.
I cannot disagree with that too.
Okay,
Yep.
throw that to a feminist who's about abortion. They'll flip out on you. But what's fair is fair then.
But
If you have the ultimate decision whether you get to keep the child or not, then I have the ultimate decision to decide whether I'm going to pay for that or not. How about that?
I can see that. I mean, I'm not going to.
I'm not trying to start a fight with women. I love women. You know me. I honor and worship women. I think women are the best part of the world. And I'm not just saying that because I'm a straight alpha, white guy. I really mean that.
Oh no! Without women, the women are the red bot. The women are the rock of society. I mean, they were the rock.
Or
of,
should be.
They were the
but
rock
the
of the
powers
fin-
that be are trying to take that away from them.
They were the
in
fin-
a horribly sneaky way.
well, that's how all
Women,
of it works.
you don't want to be us. Trust me, you don't want to be part of the patriarchy and this. Believe me, you think it's great. It's not. All we're good for is a seed
Well,
that we put in you, and then all we're left that we're good for is to work, provide, and die, and fight wars. That's it. That's the life you want. It doesn't make sense.
I think a little more than that, but
What are we good for? Keeping the lights on? But why do we keep the lights on? Why do we fight wars? Why do we provide? For who? For women.
yeah.
We serve you.
Well, yeah, we serve.
So if you guys want to be part of patriarchy, fine. You need to start serving me then.
we also serve our family. You serve families. There's a lot of components that go into that. It's not just one.
I didn't say it was one. You decided it was because you're trying to start a fight with me right now.
I am not.
This is about what let's see what we're about what, like a half hour, 45 minutes into this?
Actually, it's 35 minutes as a matter.
Yeah, that's about the time you start trying to, like, you are very passive aggressive. You throw these little arrows that I can feel and see and hear.
I was
Maybe
not.
our listeners can't catch up, but I know what you're doing.
I was not.
Yeah,
Actually-
you love throwing these little darts at me.
Actually, what I kind of find amusing is that our subject went right back to what we were originally going to talk about because it was mothers.
Yeah, I miss my mama.
If you did it, and you know, we both don't have our mothers, so
Something died in me the day she left, man.
oh,
I'm glad she left because I felt her duty was done here, raising 5 kids. I don't know, she saw 4 of her grandchildren. And yes, I would love to still have her here, but she was suffering so much, just like your dear mother from the cancer.
yeah.
So I was relieved when she left, but something died with me and went with her that day.
Well, that's a catch-22 too. It's one of the weirdest feelings in the world because you're like,
I'm supposed to be.
you-
I remember feeling I was supposed to be panicking, but I wasn't.
well,
Like it was almost like I was ready for it, and plus, I firmly believe that I will see her again. I just know. So to me, for her, it's a split second away from me because she's outside of time now. For us, it sucks a little more because we have these confounds of time because of the way we were created. But I truly, like we were talking before, I think death has been conquered, and I truly believe that if I work my hardest to live a good life, that I will see her again. I believe that.
I would.
you know.
I'd probably say that there's a portion of her that's always around too. She probably helps you when you don't really realize. Which I do think that she helped you in your accident.
Oh God, yeah.
There's
Well, you
always a
can't.
portion. There's always a
Her
portion.
and the Mother of God together. They probably came down and
Yeah.
what made me turn the steering wheel just that little bit, which they said the angle is what the angle that I was hit wasn't. It made it so it wasn't directly head on.
Yeah. So
That's what's saying. Well, I didn't think to do that in the mat. I like to take credit for it, so I sound like a fucking superhero, but that's not true. I don't know why. Why is it the first thing when I stopped spinning around? What did I do? Remember what I told you? I crossed myself.
Yep.
So God forgive me if this is my time. Forgive me. I'm sorry. I've tried my hardest. I know I failed you. Please just have a little bit of mercy on me. That's all I ask. I don't even ask God to just have mercy on me. And then I realized, wait a minute, you're still breathing. And then I was like, I didn't know what to do. And across myself, God, help me. I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. And all of a sudden, the thoughts of what I had to do flooded in, and I did it.
Yep.
Like, so, like, I get it. You're right. She was there. He was there.
That's how it works. But it's kind of crazy. You know, when you see somebody who's like the pillar of your existence crumble, I would probably say weekly because cancer doesn't do it daily. I mean, you have your ups and your downs, but you watch them pretty much like disintegrate over a period of time. And like every week it kind of gets worse and worse and worse and worse.
Well, towards the end,
And then you
it
get to
goes
the
day
end.
to day.
And then you're
And
just
when it
yeah.
starts going to day, that's when it starts getting a little like, oh, this is for real.
And then you're kind of like,
Because you go through like the year or two, like while it's going on, you're like, you know what's going on, it's horrible. But there's part of you that's kind of like, this feels like a fantasy world. But then at the end of like last week or two, when it really hits, it's like, oh, this is for real. Like this is death.
see, yeah, mine was probably about 2 weeks. I would say mine was about 3 weeks, maybe a month that I knew was bad. Yeah,
I knew it was bad the day she found out.
when she fell.
Because mine told me the day when she found out. I'll never forget. It was actually the last time I ever had coffee together with my mom alone. For some reason, she wanted to go up to Monroe, go to Dunkin' there and sit with me. Because I think she would just, I remember saying, listen, I'll tell everyone you don't have to, this and that. And I remember driving, and out of nowhere, she goes, I'm going to tell you this, but you are not to tell your siblings, but I'm telling you. And there's a reason why. I don't want you telling your siblings. And now that I look back, because they couldn't have handled it. They would have been down. She said, John, I'm going to fight this for you children because I love you and I don't want to leave you. But I'm telling you, I'm not going to be there. I already know. I remember I went through the whole thing. Oh, you don't know that? She said, John. And at that moment, I knew because she wasn't saying it in anger. And she wasn't sad. It was like she was at peace. Very stoically. And I accepted that, although I hid from that in my head for a long time when she was going through it. But I knew she wasn't going to survive it. And I made the mistake of one time saying to one of my siblings, like, flipped out on me. I was like, oh, sorry, you weren't ready for that. I was like, God, what am I going to do? And then my prayers changed from, please save my mom, as please don't let her suffer so much. And please help me, like, help prepare my brothers and sisters, because the last thing I need is see them go through a mental breakdown in the middle of all this, you know?
Yeah.
So,
Mine was pretty cool. Mine was a little different than that. But I do remember when they gave me the news. Because they were like, oh, we got to talk to you. And then I
Oh,
looked.
those are the worst words.
Well, they said that, and then I looked and I go, "You're sick." She goes, "Yeah, how do you know?" I go, "I could tell." I go, "You've been sick for a while."
yeah, that's how it was with my mom.
She
too.
goes, "Maybe." And I go, "You've been sitting upright and sleeping in a chair for over a year.
Yeah.
You haven't found out what's going wrong." Like I go,
That's that. My mom did the same
I,
thing.
I go, I
That's
go.
generation.
Obviously, something's wrong. Well, and then she was like, "I got cancer." And then they said, "Look," because actually, what happened was about 2 months before that, I was going to buy a condo in Shelton, and they pretty much said that if I bought the condo in Shelton, that they were going to sell the house because they were like, "Look, we can't really maintain this."
Funny how things work out.
And then I said, "Yeah, don't." Then I said, "I'm not ready to buy the condo yet. Hold on." And then she was going to she was going to the doctor, and I kind of had a feeling that it wasn't going to be a good diagnosis. And then
Are you gonna have?
it wasn't.
You got a lot of memories in that house, man. Like a lot of bad ones, but a lot of good ones. But they're all the ones that like made you who you are, which is pretty amazing,
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, I bottomed out in Newtown, but I mean, that's my
buddy.
that's my
Can I tell you something?
that's my safe haven.
No, Newtown. Can I tell you what I think?
You can throw it out there if you want.
I think Newtown was the final symptom. You bottom out the day you found your brother.
Well, it was part of the. I would probably say that the situation was a little bit. I didn't really address the situation. That's the
And
problem.
that's how you ended up in Newtown bottoming out. My point is, what started the fire was that, and it would have started for anyone.
Oh yeah.
Anyone.
Well, it was also running. It was kind of what we were talking about earlier. It's running for myself. Which
Do you ever?
I mean, I understand addiction cold-heartedly because
You could write a book on it, dude. You kidding me?
because it's just well, there's different aspects and different avenues.
Why
on
don't you tell people
do
who I call when I get the urge? tell what the phone calls are like, because they'll get a kick out of it. I just come out and say it. I'm like, yeah, I feel like drinking.
I have gotten a couple phone calls.
Yeah, remember that time you were at the concert? I'm like, dude, I feel like drinking. You're like, really, dude? Oh, come on. And you like change the subject. And I'll, like within 3 minutes, I'm like, all right, I feel better. I don't feel like anymore. You're like, all right, good, man. Have a good time. Have a good night. I'm going back to the concert.
Yeah, that was. I forgot. I was at Black Rock.
I've always been. I always tell people, like, if you feel the urge, don't beat around the bush. Call your safe person. Just say, look, I feel like drinking. If they can't handle that, then they shouldn't be your like safe go-to.
Yeah, I would
That's
say
part
that.
of the disease. Listen, 27 years. I will still in the future get some point where I feel like drinking. And guess what? I'll reach out to you or someone else that I trust and say, I feel like drinking. Because sometimes you have to hear it come out of your mouth to hear how ridiculous it sounds.
Well, that's what I was gonna. Actually, you just beat me to the punch because that's what I was gonna say. So you have to get it out because if you let it fester inside you, it'll take you down eventually.
Yeah, it's like diverticulitis, right?
I'm not going into diverticulitis. It will take you down.
Oh, yeah.
It's not a fun. It's not something fun to live with.
What do you think it'll be like if you ever leave your house for you?
Which one?
The one where you are now, where your whole life has happened. A
Oh.
lot of it.
I mean, when I lived in Newtown for 7. I think it was 7 years. It was
Was it?
It was a good chunk. Yeah, it was a long time.
Yeah, but this is going to be different.
Yeah. I mean, I don't plan on leaving anytime soon, but I mean, I don't know. It's a good question.
I mean, did you ever wonder about it?
Not really. I don't give too much thought to that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I guess that's why we're different.
Yeah, I just kind of go with the punt. I'm like more of a chameleon. Like I kind of go around with like wherever my surroundings are, whatever I have to do. I'm like a cockroach. I just live. I survive.
You just call yourself a cockroach?
I've been called a cockroach for most.
Have you really?
Oh yeah, yeah. When I was partying, like I could beat the hell out of my body, and I wouldn't go down.
It was the same thing with me.
Yeah, that's the scary thing. But at the same time, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I could see myself moving away just because our area is going to be it's going to be very expensive to maintain and live in.
It's not just that. It's just, I don't.
I mean, sometimes it's kind
A
of
lot of people that I do have things in common with have moved away. Or they have their own lives, and it's like, it's like, do you sit here and like, and I'm talking about after my last child is on his way to going to becoming an adult in school and stuff. My point is, do I like sit around and wait for them to get old so we can reconnect, or how about I go live a little bit after I take care of my responsibilities and do something I want to do? I love creating with my hands. That's why I always talk about West Virginia and
Yeah.
moving to the woods because I want to build things. I want to work the land. And I know people that sounds good, but I've done it before. Like this is not a pipe dream. I know how to do it. You know,
Oh, yeah.
from start to finish. And my soul needs that.
Well,
I can't be one of those people who retire and go to Florida and sit on the beach. I'll die. I'll be dead.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to be an option for us anyway. By that point,
God, you have such a grim outlook, man.
The way that things are right now,
I know.
we're not moving in a good. We're the farther away from society is probably where I want to be.
I know. I agree with you.
The only thing that I'm gonna want, and this is the only thing that I definitely know that when we get older we're gonna need, is to be close to a hospital. That's the only.
Well,
thing
yeah.
That's an absolute. Because I gotta say, like, so I didn't really realize this. Talking about like,
Listen, Yale
like-
New Haven has saved my life 3 times in the past 4 years, dude.
well,
Like literally.
well, no, we have some of the best. We actually where we live, we have some of the best medicine in the whole country.
Oh, I know
There's
that.
no doubt about
I know
it.
that. And the frontline research going on too.
Totally. It's funny because I was just talking to somebody whose father has some health problems right now, and he's got to go for a big surgery. And literally, this is something that we take for granted where we are. He has to drive 2 hours to have his surgery done.
Imagine the anxiety on that drive.
And then he's got to stay in the hospital for 4 days.
And then drive back
till
to
after, and then somebody's got to come pick him up and then bring him back home.
That's crazy.
But he's 2.5 hours. Like, what happens if there's a complication?
Do you know?
And there's other hospitals that he could get kind of like,
Yeah.
but so if the other hospitals you really don't want to do the procedure at, do you really want to go to the hospital? Those hospitals?
No,
if
I
you,
totally
if you have a
understand.
complication.
I know.
Like-
Listen, I know people who live in the Valley area in our state, and they won't go to Griffin, even though Griffin's a stone throw away from the house. They'll demand go to Yale.
Oh, I thought Griffin was pretty good actually.
Actually, Griffin has one of the top baby wards in the country.
Yeah, Griffin's very good.
But listen, I agree with you. We're used to top-notch care, and right, one of the, right out of our hands, and we're blessed for that. I've lived in the opposite. When I lived in the Catskills in New York with my ex-wife, and she first got pregnant, I loved it up there. I didn't want to ever leave. But one of the reasons I left was because the hospital was an hour and 15 minutes away in Albany.
Exactly.
And it was her first time being pregnant. And it was my first time being, like, we were young, we were inexperienced. And, like, that was a serious concern. Whereas some people around there who live there, no big deal. No, it is a big deal for us because I don't care what people tell you, So it's one of the reasons we moved back, And, no, I agree with you. Healthcare it's one of those things you just have to think more of as time goes on, as you get older. Never thought you'd get to this point, but
Oh yeah. Well, wouldn't you also become caretaker and you see like what happens at the end?
I've also learned as I've gotten older too, a lot of the medications you have to take when you're older can be avoided if you just change your diet.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So
what you put in your body is definitely a temple. There is no doubt about it. They kind of wrote it. They wrote it that way for a reason.
And I think a lot of the medicines we have are very good. Here's the thing. I don't think any of them are meant to be taken long term. Okay? So you have high blood pressure, fine. Put him on blood pressure medication, put him on a blood thinner to avoid the stroke. But while he's on that, let's get the weight off. Let's get this off so he can come off all that.
Oh yeah.
That's the way medicine should be used. I mean, there are certain rare cases where it's genetic, where you just have to stay on it, which I understand. I know people like that. But for the most part, like, it's not a fix. What it is it buys you some time to fix what is broken. It's not meant to like just stay on it.
Yeah.
And I think that's where a lot of doctors, they don't push enough. Like my cardiologist was really good. He's like, look, I can keep you on these for the rest of your life, but you're too young. Lose the weight, I'll take you off them all. Like, do that. I don't want to keep you on this and that and that,
Yeah, totally. I could see that.
That's another thing, by the way, we're not taught about in school.
Wow.
How to take care of ourselves, health-wise.
Oh yeah. Well, I think our health classes.
Or a semester. That should be something taught every single year you're in high school, and every semester there should be a part of it. about, I believe, personal finances and personal self-care. I do. I'm sorry.
Yeah, well, I think a lot of the stuff that they're teaching
They're
is
not
construed.
teaching you how to like take care, but teaching you the science behind it so you really understand why it's important.
Well, I mean, I think Connecticut's actually not dropping the ball with. I think they're one of 4 or 5 states in the country that's requiring you to take an economics class now, so you can balance a checkbook and you can actually
Yeah,
do
they're fucking economics.
like-
no
like
one
they-
balances a checkbook
like
anymore.
like
Kids need to be taught how money really works.
yeah. Well, I mean,
They don't teach you that the Fed is a private institution.
well, I mean, yeah, they're not going to go into that.
And I wouldn't mind being part of that institution.
Yeah, yeah, they definitely.
Yeah, you and I complain about, but man, you know what? If we had the chance, we'll be part of it.
Yeah, yeah.
Can I have the chair at the end of the table?
They also don't want to teach you that like the IRS really shouldn't be taking 3/4 of half of your pay.
I know.
when all the people who are really
Except the
making
IRS. The IRS just enforces it.
Yeah.
It's our lawmakers.
yeah, it's our law.
Who love spending other people's money.
Yep, and then don't want to pay themselves. I love it when the politicians are up for re-election because they actually they'll delinquent all their taxes for like 5, 6, 7 years,
Yeah.
and then literally when they come up for whatever office that
They'll
they're
clean it up.
re-electing, they actually literally pay all their taxes in the 1 year right before they have to go on the campaign.
You know what else I love too? When they signed Obamacare, all of Congress and their families was exempt from it.
Yeah, yeah.
And they passed it at 2:00 in the morning. I love
Which you
that.
gotta love. If
Yeah.
it was a good bill, they would be a part of it, and that's what I have an issue with.
A lot of it's like that.
Oh yeah,
man.
the whole elite class is what I have an issue with. Look,
What-
I don't care what side of the fence you're on. If it's good for me and you want to tell me it's good for me, but you don't want to be a part of it yourself,
I call bullshit.
that's bullshit.
Let me ask you something. If you had the chance, and let's say in a make-believe world, to be part of the elite class for 2 weeks, would you do it?
They'd kick me out.
No. You have to ruin my thing right away.
They would totally kick me out. I would open.
I wouldn't do it. You know why? Because I know just to be involved for those 2 weeks, you literally have to sell your soul.
Yeah,
And there's some things, there's some lines I'm just not willing to cross.
I was gonna say I don't think I would want their world.
And at my age, I don't know if you feel at our age, money doesn't tempt me like it did when I was young. It doesn't tempt me at all.
I mean, I like it because I'd like to live comfortably for
Well,
the
you
rest
also
of
have
my
a,
existence.
you also have a horrible cocaine habit, but God,
Yeah. Well, I did.
you know I'm never gonna let you down in that.
I mean, it's
I love you, bro, but
it's okay.
cocaine cowboys.
I'm not going to say that it was it. I put a house up one nostril and a college degree up another.
It's kind of sad when you think about it. though.
It's very sad.
I know.
It's
But-
actually I don't like to. I really don't like to go down that road.
Well, people, we know what road we're gonna go down next time. No, I'm
no.
joking, dude. I would never do that to you.
It's a boring road, but it's
Money
just-
doesn't do it for me. I want enough money to pay my bills, give my kids the opportunities they need, and take a vacation once in a while. I'll pay you whatever taxes you want. I don't give a shit about that. In the end, I don't, because I know you can't take any of it with you. But do not strip me of the ability to give my 3 children, as hard as I work in the 2 jobs I work, the ability to have more opportunities than I did, because that's when I have a problem.
Yeah, I also I have an issue with like,
Strippers being taxed?
No, I have no. Everybody should pay their taxes.
I'm only joking. I'm being
No,
facetious.
what I have an issue with is when we're paying our fucking taxes and our taxes are going to shit like paying for people who shouldn't be here.
And other
That-
wars.
that-
And wars that have nothing to do with us.
And wars that really, I'm done trying to police the world. Like
I think we all are.
It's not our job.
No, it's not.
Absolutely and completely. Look, all we're doing is creating chaos around the globe. We're displacing all these people with our wars. We're putting them in other countries that they don't belong in. The other countries are starting to fall apart because now there's guys with machetes running down the fucking streets of London right now,
I know.
stabbing people. I mean, what? It goes back to the elites thinking
Burning
that-
churches down
that they're
and putting
living
old
the-
bishops and monks in prison. I mean, what? Like, this is like communist era stuff, dude. All
Yeah.
of it.
Oh yeah, we're in, like I said, we're in some dark days right now. But yeah, I mean the Ukraine thing. I mean, it's sad. I think I read a statistic like
It's brothers fighting brothers, dude.
and I also think it's like 2 generations worth of fucking of men are gone from Ukraine. Like that's
Russia too. Russia's suffering horrible losses too.
oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, and it's sad because I think in a different time in a different place with a different political leadership,
It would
in
have
the
never
world,
happened under Trump.
I think it would be in a whole.
Trump
different
knew
ballpark.
exactly what was going on with that Zelensky and everything else. He knew exactly what was going
Well,
on.
there's a lot of shady shit in Ukraine too, and it has to do with a lot of. It has to do with
A
some
lot of it's a-
Republicans and
Well, it
Democrats.
also has a lot to do with leftover ideology from the Soviet times because the way people in the Soviet Union survived was like big on black market and stuff.
Oh,
You know, so there's that mentality there too.
yeah,
You know,
yeah. Going back to our illicit drug, the illicit trades.
yeah. But I get what you're saying. I'm sick of our money being it's taxed when we get it's taxed constant. The same dollar is taxed until the buying power is like 20 cents.
yeah,
It's like
and
I
we're
don't mind working hard. I don't mind paying taxes, but it's so inefficient. It's so inefficient, and I don't want to use the word unfair because I think the unfair part comes with is a product of absolute inefficiency.
Well, I mean, it is unfair to a certain degree when it's fucking when you have somebody who's has been here for 2 weeks, hasn't done anything, hasn't paid any dues. He's getting thousands of dollars, healthcare coverage, and
Cell
everything
phone,
else.
housing, food, and
but
then they complain
but
about what they're getting.
Well, no, and then our veterans who actually laid their life on the line get nothing. Shit on the street.
I know.
And that's absolutely and completely, no offense, but all these elites that literally live in their little bubble down in Washington, I hate to be the bearer of bad news. You wouldn't be living in that little bubble if it wasn't for the poor people that actually were fighting the wars that you're doing.
Yeah.
Because you're either making
Don't-
money off the stock market, off of the trades that have to do
Or
with
they're
the wars.
they're making money off the companies that build the bombs, and then once those go off, they make money off the companies that rebuild
that
the
rebuild.
countries.
Exactly.
Because I can tell you right now, we could have been in and out of Afghanistan in under a year, killed all the Taliban, killed Osama bin Laden, and went on with life. But no, they got the idea. Let's fucking knock the whole thing off, get military bases over there, rebuild the country, and then to really triple our profits, we'll go take care of Iraq too.
Well, the best thing is that we literally just left the base. I mean, Afghanistan was one of the worst things I've ever seen in my
Because
life.
the people who started it and ended it made their money. They don't care what they left. They made their money.
Yeah. But, I mean, it was a strategic.
And you know what? I hope when they're dying,
But we have some
honestly,
we have some bad military people right now too.
I hope when they're dying, those people who made those decisions, and when they're about to take them, they see those people grabbing on that C-130 falling off it. I hope because that's going to be their judgment. I can tell you right now. The people who controlled the whole situation, and they were warned. They were told not to go about that by special ops guys on the ground who have been there for years, who understood the environment. They told them, "Don't do this. This is what's going to happen." They didn't listen
Yeah.
because they gonna do what they're gonna do because they don't value human life except their own.
Yep. I agree with that cold-hearted. That's actually a problem with a lot of what the world is right now.
I tell you, this podcast, this Empire gets in trouble.
Everybody cares about themselves, and that's it. Especially when it comes to the elites.
Well, not me.
Well, we're not the elites. You have to have
So,
that.
I feel elite.
You have to have that mentality to get to that. It's funny, so I'll finish this off with this story. So I was talking to my neighbor a while back. I think it was like 5 or 6 months ago. And so we were talking about just life in general. He goes, I truly, truly, truly believe that one day, it's going to take one of the really, really rich guys on the planet to like give away his worth and really like change people's philosophy. So then the rest of the other rich people will see the benefit of giving up and helping people and this and that.
That's a pipe dream.
And I literally stopped. I looked at him.
Even if one guy did do that, the others aren't going to see it as that.
I go, I got to be honest with you. I go, I value that view. That's how I look at life.
Well,
That's how I look
That's
at
what
the world.
Jesus Christ told the rich man to do.
I go-
sell everything you have, but that's why it's harder to do that than get into yes, you're right.
Well, I go, I value that opinion and that thought process. I go, but I have to ask you something. And this guy, it does high-end architecture. So I go, how many people do you know in the upper crust that don't have a conquistador attitude? And he stops and he says, I go, because once you get to 1 million, it's 2 million. Once you get to 2, it's
never-
4.
it's never
I go,
ending.
once you get to 4, it's 8. I go,
It's exponential.
It's the conquest that is the driving factor. I go, there's no other factor. I go, unless you were born with it and give it for it.
What comes with conquest is power.
Power and greed. And I go, and helping people and giving things away, I go,
They might have been nice ideas in the beginning when you started, but once you start and see that money, you forget about it.
well, I was actually going to say to him too, just so you know, like, I got to tell you, like, I've never met a rich person, like, the old money that's in the world. Yes, I've met some real cool people that, like, the money does not affect them at all.
Yeah.
A lot of the new generation that has a lot of money, let me tell you.
Yeah, because you have multimillionaires who become multimillionaires by making stupid videos that they post.
Totally. Well, they also it's like the kids jumping on top of a Lamborghini and destroying it for the sake of just destroying it.
And that's disgusting.
That's somebody's property.
It's disgusting too, because like when you look at something like that, and not to sound like superficial, but a Lamborghini is basically a piece of artwork.
Well, there's
I
that.
mean, like, and it's so disrespectful of the person. How do you know that person didn't work his whole life, or she didn't work her whole life to get that car, and they did it honest, and it took them 30 years, but they got it, and they feel good about it. And then you come along because
Exactly.
you're a spoiled brat and jump all over. It's disgusting.
It's
How,
not.
or how about when they go into these museums and destroy these timeless piece of art?
Oh.
They think they're making it infuriates me.
Don't even get me on that.
That's
one.
no different than being at war and destroying ancient civilization like artifacts.
Like the
There's no
Taliban.
different. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's no different.
Yeah. Oh no.
Why are we even putting that on TV? Those people should be arrested right away.
And they're paid to do it. That's the worst thing
Yeah.
that I know about that.
Fucking Soros.
That's well. Hey, he's probably not the only one, but he's a big
Well,
one.
I heard his son is even worse than him.
Yeah, me too. But that's for another podcast. that's for another.
So I
day
hope
time.
this podcast stayed on subject and was more. Matt always. I mean, you always think we flow well. What I was gonna say, like we stayed in boundaries. You kept me caged on this one, man.
Well,
A couple of times I felt like flying off, but you pulled it right back. And you gave me that little twinkle in the eye, was looking at me. I said, okay.
that's because I checked your microphone or before you even got into it.
I know. I'm thinking about hot and sour soup right now.
And on that note,
Oh, no, was it hot and what? Sweet or whatever it is. It's
I
all,
don't know.
it's all good.
Let's just wrap this up.
Oh, now he's getting annoyed. You see the look on his face.
This sweet. I don't think anybody really needs to hear us talk about sweet and sour soup.
I think people like hearing you mock me and then me coming back at you.
There is a possibility of that, but I don't think of that. I'm just in the character.
All right, so I'm going to upload last week's episode and today's episode between today and tomorrow.
Okay.
And those will be up, and they'll be on public view. On the like, people don't need like permission; they can just go watch it.
Okay,
And then
everybody.
hopefully, we'll be on other platforms soon. Look, he's trying to edit. He's so annoyed right now because we're at an hour. This is his compulsive behavior because we're past an hour. It's bothering him. All right, people, love you. We'll see you next week.
Later.
Bye.